We don't see Baker in week 1. I think that's on the board. And in the game of musical chairs, we still have the NFL draft. We still have, all he does is win Mr. Jimmy G out there. And I don't know how many teams are out there looking for Baker. And I think it's very interesting that we wanted Baker to sit last year. When he was hurt, he wanted to play through it. Nick and I were like, you know what? Sit. Don't put bad tape out there. The guys who had to sit a full year have jobs now. Jameis sat for a full year behind Drew Brees. Now he's starting. Trubisky sat. Now he's starting. Marcus Mariota sat. Now he's going to be the starter. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Baker, by his own choice or not, ends up sitting for a while before he gets a starting job.
Okay, I don't disagree with that. But I do think that there are teams out there that can still use his services. Even Atlanta, with signing Marcus Mariota, Baker's not out of the question. Like, I don't believe that just because they signed Marcus Mariota, you can't go after Baker Mayfield pending what you're going to have to give up or have to what that deal looks like. I think you have to buy low when it comes to Baker Mayfield. So that may play into your assumption or your thought of him sitting and not being on or in the starting lineup for a team come week 1. But for me, there are teams, and I'm a Michigan guy. So I look at culture and player style. And for me, I know the Lions have Jared Goff, but for the life of me, I'm thinking he would be perfect. He would be perfect, a perfect personality for a guy like Dan Campbell and what he wants to do. I was down in Miami when Dan Campbell took over for Joe Philbin, and his knee biting and all that physical clash of the helmets every single day, that rah-rah, I want leaders, I want guys, challenging guys. That's Baker Mayfield. He would love that personality. Even Seattle. The only thing about Seattle is they're in this rebuild stage. And so I don't know if they would be willing to give up what they just were able to acquire for Russell Wilson and others to grab on to Baker Mayfield and see if that can work. But there are teams out there, even more than what I'm mentioning, that I believe Baker Mayfield would make better than where they are today currently.
Yeah. Listen, I think this is a bit of an overreaction. Deshaun Watson we've done one show since Deshaun Watson was traded. This is our second. I think we need to give it time before we say Baker's not going to be a week 1 starter. Atlanta didn't make sense because Atlanta's going to have $40 million against the cap this year to have Matt Ryan not on the team. So they've got to deal with that. So Marcus Mariota is a cheap option. I think Pittsburgh is a viable option. I'm not sure why nobody else is bringing up the Giants. The Giants are in a winnable division. Yeah. They've spent money in free agency the last few years. And I understand that there is this idea that, oh, my God, the New York media. Guys, the entire world is the New York media now. It is not 1992 anymore. The idea that you can go anywhere and be out of the spotlight, it just doesn't work. It's not like that. Baker Mayfield was in Cleveland. Was he still on this show and undisputed in the herd as much as any quarterback in football? Of course. And there is for, especially for those of us that live in New York City or in the area and people that came up in the media business, there is some deification of Ralph Vacchiano and Frank Isola and the back page of the Post. I don't think players these days are scared of that. I think they're far more scared of Bleacher Report. And I think that he's an obvious upgrade over Daniel Jones. He's an obvious upgrade over Drew Lock. He's an obvious upgrade over Sam Darnold. So I don't see there being any scenario, barring injury brew, where Baker is not a week 1 starter for somebody next year.
Well, Nick, you are right that the internet has, to your point, made everything New York City. And you'll get talked about on this show, on radio shows, other TV shows, all that. However, there is nothing like New York City on a daily basis. You will have more reporters at your locker. Obviously COVID's affected things, but just the daily press conferences and the reporters surrounding your locker, the cameras at your locker, that is different. And he had trouble with that in Cleveland, for goodness sake. If he comes to New York, takes the job from Daniel Jones, leads the Giants to a really good season, and he's playing well, it'll be great. But if he struggles, it is going to be tough, and I think too tough for him to handle. He's shown some immaturity, which I think is that's one of the keys to this, Greg, is that teams believe that he's immature. They are in agreement with the Browns that he's not the adult that you want at that position at this point. I see no other reason why teams aren't looking at him and signing him. I think he's better than some of these guys out there, but now I'm stunned. He's already in a position where he's going to have to go somewhere and compete for a starting job. If it's Seattle, he's going to have to beat out Drew Lock. He's not just going to be handed the job. If it's Carolina, I think they'll make him beat out Sam Darnold. And Atlanta, Nick's right about the money, but if he were to end up there, I think they would have a quarterback battle with him and Mariota. And I think he's better than those guys. But the fact that he's not going to be just given a starter's job for game one next year, that's a bit stunning to me this early in Baker Mayfield's career.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.